Hi, I'm Susan Tierney. This is Scott Horne, and this is another episode of Ask the Attorney. And Scott, tonight's episode is on your favorite subject, creative structuring. There is no one better at figuring out a deal and creatively working out all the details and making the deal happen. That is your expertise. That's a compliment. I'm throwing you a bone.
I would say it's one of many, but
one of
thank
many,
you very
but
much.
you've so many talents. To me, your creativity, and I hear that over and over in the marketplace, is bar none. Anyway, let's start into different creative structuring of different deals. Let's start with our favorite subject, subject two.
Okay. Well, you know, I got to start off saying when we were buying a house subject to, first off, the underlying debt is what it is. You can't change it. And I see so many investors, they come in and they say, well, we're buying a sub 2, but we're going to put a balloon payment with it to the seller. And it's like, no, stop, time out, can't do it. That would be a wrap loan to restructure it, even though it might be the same terms and conditions of the underlying debt, but you can't change a subject to transaction. You have to create a wraparound in order to change it in that scenario.
Right.
So start with that though. That's just a sidebar a little bit. But when we're buying a property subject to the existing debt, there's always going to be different needs of our seller, right?
Right.
That's the first thing we always teach all of our clients is know what your seller's needs are.
Right. You got to find their hot buttons too.
You do. No, yeah, they need to get out of the deal, most
Right.
likely in most cases. Not always, but they're looking to move on for some reason. But do they need cash for moving, maybe? Do they have equity in the property? And if they have equity, do they want the equity in cash, or do they want it in maybe a second lien?
Or
You know,
it could be a combination of both, right? You can give a
could.
little cash and a
You
lien.
can. Sometimes that cash might be too much, which means maybe we as the investor have to go to one of our private lenders and borrow money instead of using our own cash, because I always like using OPM, right?
Right.
Not opium, but other people's money. Never tried the opium stuff before. You know, and all types of different things can be created and set up.
Right.
And really, it's all about talking to the seller, determining what their need truly is,
Right.
and how can we accomplish that. You know, if a seller is looking to get equity out of the property, and for some reason borrowing money from a private lender just doesn't work, and you want them to do a seller carryback, keep in mind still that we can set that seller carryback up in so many ways. It could be a interest-only loan. It could be a principal-only loan. It could be a principal and interest amortized loan. The key again becomes, what do they need and how do we wind up accomplishing that deal? And again, putting these things together in a way that work is what is so much fun sometimes.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about overpriced houses.
Yeah. And by the way, Susan, you know, you walk to a house, we find it, and they are asking too much for it. They just won't come down. Well, so often investors walk away.
Right.
Is there another way to skin that cat? And the answer is sometimes, yeah. You never know. You know, one of the things that is so opportunistic is give them what they want. You know, if you're the seller and you're asking way too much money for your house based upon the numbers and what it is, what if I give you your full price? But if I give you what you want, will you give me what I want? Maybe I want better terms. Maybe I want lower interest rate, longer term amortization. Maybe I want you to do a principal only loan, because if I have to go to my bank and borrow money at $200,000, let's say 5% interest or 6% interest on a 15-year AM, could I come to you and maybe borrow money at 2% on a 20-year AM? Well, how does that look number-wise?
Right.
Or maybe principal only over a shorter time frame. And I look at how my numbers work for me, but also how does it work for you? Most sellers are going to come up and realize that when they're selling their home, we all know that the average time that a house is owned by somebody, from an owner-occupier perspective at least, is like 4 to 6 years when the house sells. Well, when the house sells, they're getting paid off.
Right.
So if they got the higher price transaction, even principal only, maybe they're going to make more money down the road. And again, these are...
And they won't have to pay taxes up front, right?
True, absolutely.
I know that's a hot button.
Taxes
for
are always
lot
a
of
hot
people.
button. But, you know, again, you're giving the seller what you want. You're creating some talking points around those scenarios that are out there. You know, and when I structure that loan with the seller, and again, it's all about talking to the seller and their needs. It could be low interest rate loans. It could be no interest rate loans, just principal only payments. There could be a down payment involved. Small, bigger. What are the needs that are out
Yeah.
there?
So give us an
Anything
example of something you've done or we've done.
You know, we've got a deal we're working on right now where the house is probably at least 100,000 overpriced right now, maybe more. And the house has been sitting on the market now for 180 days. It's not moving. In a hot market. What does that tell you?
Yep, overpriced.
It tells you it's overpriced for the condition of the property. This house needs buku work to get it done. Is that a word, buku? Of course it is. But I will promise you, no one has approached him from this perspective of offering him full price, but principal only. And again, why? Because he knows at some time within a reasonable time, we're going to sell that house, he's going to get cashed out. Now, we may wind up leasing it. We might do a seller finance, but if we do a seller finance, there's always a chance that the property is paid off 4 to 6 years out.
Right.
And again, it's just setting up the seller to understand the situation to do things. Now, in this case, the rehab on this house might be $100,000. So imagine for a minute, Susan, if you're the seller and instead of paying you $200,000, I'm going to pay you $300,000 for the house. But principal only payments. You're going to go, wait, I want interest. Well, no. You know, I'm not going to pay you $100,000 more for the house. That's really your interest. But in your mind, you get that, of course, right? And you set up a structure, and I might put it on a 15-year amortized loan on a 10-year balloon. Now, I'm going to go and spend $100,000 to renovate this property. You don't care where the money comes from because you're going to be in that first lien position and in control. Well, what would happen if after I put $100,000 in the house, I've now fully renovated your home, and I've actually increased that value to more than what your house is worth, and I default? Could that happen?
Yep.
It could. You just made a home run, right?
Right.
So again, looking at how you structure a deal, but how you present that transaction to the seller is also important along the way. And again, I'm giving the seller what they want. They're giving me what I want. I'm showing them how that they're getting better protection along the way. I'm educating them in how properties cash out on a reasonable basis. And I think the average person out there will understand those kind of things.
Right.
Because so often, if you just gave them a chunk of money, where is that seller going to put the money? In the bank,
In
right?
the bank.
And they're going to pay you what?
0.5%.
Almost nothing. And so I think there's some good talking points that might allow you to get there
Right.
when you present things that way.
Yeah. I think sometimes it takes a little bit more sophisticated buyer because sometimes when we're out on foreclosures appointments and
It does, I think.
yeah.
There's going to be a certain level of sophistication to do that, but not always.
Okay. Okay, the next one is the participation.
Okay. You know, I know we've talked to a lot of people about this too because, you know, the seller wants to sell, the buyer wants to buy, but for whatever reason, you just can't get there. And so often we come across these houses that need, I mean, huge updating. But the seller wants more money. They think their house is worth more money. Maybe they live there and they're just so attached to it. It's like, you know, it's worth 300 when it's really worth 200 again. But sometimes by doing a partnership, you can do a lot of things together.
What's the other word for that I've been hearing?
Yeah, I know. I just can't.
Arbitrage or
Arbitrage in a sense.
Arbitrage.
Whatever.
Okay.
I call it participating with the seller in some type of a joint venture type agreement.
Such as, we can't come to an agreement, she wants $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
How would you structure that?
Well, sometimes you create a reasonable price that both you and the seller could agree upon, that they're comfortable with.
Okay.
That's their part of the participation of the transaction. Maybe we come in, the investor comes in, and then they will put up all of the repairs, do all the work, and carry that interest. Okay. Maybe the parties discuss, maybe there is no debt on the property, only taxes. Maybe those are split in some percentage format. But now what you've done is you've taken a house that really, the true price is less than what the seller wants. You now increase the value based on the renovations of the house, and we're able to sell it. Through your own techniques, not using third-party realtors a list, but doing things internally where you can save money from a sales perspective, get work done quickly, and work together. The property sells, and the seller gets their money first that they put in, that their participation was. Maybe we as the investor get our out-of-pocket rehab dollars second,
Okay.
and then you have the net proceeds after taxes are paid, et cetera. And then you divide those up in whatever way you and the seller negotiate.
So it's whatever you both agree to.
Yeah, but what
There's
happens?
no certain format.
There isn't, but what happens is the investor may not get all the money they wanted on the deal, but I would rather have something that was worthwhile
Right.
versus nothing.
Right.
Now, I'm not talking working for minuscule dollars, but if you can make $35,000 or $40,000 profit instead of making 60 or 70, okay, you still made $35,000 or $40,000.
Right.
Now, I'm not talking working for a year or those kind of things, but
Yeah.
it's still good income. And you greatly limited your risk because you didn't have to go out and borrow the purchase price.
Yeah. You know what would worry me about that is these people you would go, they would want to, oh, I want to do this tile and I want to do this, and they wouldn't, they'd be unrealistic in, you know, what they would want.
Well, I think you
That would
set
have
up,
to be negotiated, that we're doing the rehab, not you.
you set up expectations up front.
Right.
Maybe you share some ideas with them. Maybe you show them some of your past work if you have it. And most of these people, if they had the knowledge, if they had the
Contractors.
well, the contractors, but also if they had the ability to do what a good investor can really do in the design process, they do it. They don't. Most people's taste is where?
In their mouth?
In their mouth, right? And we know that we see the houses.
Yes.
And sometimes their generation might have one taste, foil wallpaper, for instance,
Okay.
that doesn't fit today. But I think you set up expectations up front and you take care of items along the way.
And then your cash and terms offer.
Okay. Well, sometimes the sellers just need cash. What do they need it for? Their grandkids' college. They're moving into a retirement facility, where it might be going. So if you have the ability to get primary financing, maybe that's private capital financing, maybe it is bank financing, where you go and you get that new first lien and you pay them not $200,000, but maybe you pay them $100,000, maybe $125,000. You have them carry back a second for not just that amount, but for a little bit more. And then you again, as we said earlier, structure that second lien to what works, that seller carry back lien.
Okay.
To where it's an interest only, principal only, principal, whatever you can negotiate in the regard. But you give them what they need to get the deal accomplished.
Okay.
Have them do a carryback on a short-term basis, and you get there. Now, maybe, since you had to pay a little bit more to get there, you hold that house for 12, 24, 36 months, collecting income on it, whatever that format might be, before you sell it and cash them out.
Okay.
Or maybe you're able to refinance it at some point in time in the future and cash them out and give them their percentage along the way.
Right.
And get them to get that second lien or that seller carryback lien paid off.
Okay.
So the key again is, what's the formula that helps us get there?
Yeah. What do you want to think about when it comes to a note sale and working with a seller?
No, I think it's just a way to look at it, handling a deal. You know, if I came to you as a seller, Susan, and I said, look, I want to buy your house. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to come in and fix it up. And I'm going to put a home buyer in there. And in 12 months, I'm going to sell my note. And I hope that you've already got that back-end note buyer set up so you know you can sell it for X dollars. However you structure that loan, as a 100% sale, a 90-10, an 80-20, whatever it might look like, where you're able to sell that note and pay off the seller. It is just a way to look at a deal, and it's another mechanism to talk to the seller about.
Right.
And again, some sellers are not sophisticated enough to know it. Some are. But if that seller has a first lien mortgage on the property, so they're fully protected, they know we're going to renovate it, they understand the process we're going to go through, we explain to them how it works, they may go, great, I'm protected, I'm getting paid, I'll get paid more when this deal cashes out. It's just another way of looking at the transaction.
Right.
Our goal is to find out how to make the deal work. Because if we can't make the deal work, no one's making any money, or at least we as the investor aren't, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we touched on it, but there's so many tax advantages. How do you help the seller in that regard? What would you suggest there?
Well, you know, it's not helping the seller though, but every once in a while, based on the seller's situation and where they are, there might be some funky way that through some various taxing issues, you're able to structure a deal where the seller can take tax advantages. Now, I don't have any specific examples, you know, other than 1031 tax-free exchanges maybe. I've seen some funky stuff out there in the marketplace where, based on various issues where people are moving to, you're able to do some creative things. But it's always one of those kind of things that when you're meeting with your CPA, you're meeting with a tax professional, ask these questions, no, ask questions. How can I help structure deals for my seller that not have some tax advantages? So when you do run across that seller who actually needs them, no,
Right.
in your lower end properties, not going to be the situation. In your higher end properties, very well maybe, right? But again, it's just knowing what your options are. And so we should take time, always inquire to those CPAs, the tax attorneys, whatever it might be, just to see if there really is a way we can offer them something out there. You never know when something's going to work out there in our business.
Okay. And obviously, you want to trust but verify and CYA, right?
Well,
Instead of CPA, you want to CYA.
Well, I hope most people understand what that means. But you're absolutely right, we do. But you know, it's so often investors they just jump right into it. I have seen so many people here in the last year who have gotten involved in joint ventures with sellers or other investors even.
Right.
And they put up all the money, it seems like, or a chunk of money with no security. They have a handshake because they have a joint venture agreement, let's say, which is, again, a contract is only worth what the integrity is of the two parties involved. That's it. And if their party doesn't have it and you're not protected, what are you going to do?
Right.
And having to file a lawsuit to enforce an agreement takes a long time and it's expensive. Always protect yourself
Right.
with a security instrument of some type against a
Right.
property or properties, so that in the event of a default, you're able to get that property back
Right.
quickly without going through a lawsuit, so that maybe there's a first lien mortgage and you're coming in with gap financing that I see so often out there. Oh my gosh, but no one, they get a promissory note because they don't understand. Let me back up. Everybody wants to trust everybody. We all do. I would love to be able to do a handshake, agreement with people. It just doesn't work in today's world.
Right.
But people do. They trust people so much and they just give them all this money with no protection. And what happens at the end of the day is that investors go south, the deal goes south, that first lien holder forecloses and wipes everybody out. and they weren't able to move fast enough to protect themselves in some regard.
Right.
And so it's just, again, learning how to be smart, how to structure your deal properly
Right.
and creatively.
And, you know, so many newbies, and this is, I guess, a chance for a shameless plug, but so many newbies will watch this and go, well, I don't know how do I know how to do that? I don't have enough experience. But one of the services we offer at the Owner Finance Network is the Note Pro services, where they can come to you for a fee, a reasonable fee, $500, and you structure that whole deal, and you lay out different options for them. So,
Well, we can, and it depends on the deal. If it's going to be a seller finance deal, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll look at the deal with them together, or at least help them analyze and make suggestions and recommendations
Right.
along the way. You know, obviously, we can go to the next level of the law firm if they need help in looking at an agreement and those kind of items. But the key is helping the investor marketplace understand how to do this. And you can make so many agreements with people. It's just about protecting yourself. Structure the deal in the right way. There's so many fun, creative ways to put deals together. Now, I know that sounds a little goofy, fun, creative ways to do it. I kind of call it fun
Right.
because it is fun for me to do
Right.
it. I like that mental exercise.
I know the wheels turn.
They do, but it's what makes deals work.
Yep.
And it's all
I
about the
agree.
numbers at the end of the day.
Okay. I totally agree. Check us out at theownerfinancenetwork.com for more Ask the Attorney videos, or if you need help structuring your notes, we can help you with that as well.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.